My name's Daniel and welcome to this. In front of me I have the Lego Technic set. I've got the box right behind me. It's the 42069 Extreme Adventure Vehicle, or I've heard it also being called the Extreme Off-Road Vehicle, depending on who you ask and what language you're speaking. It's a lovely little vehicle. Lovely model, Technic model from the 40 years Technic anniversary. Came out 2017 if I'm correct, and I bought it recently from a lovely little Lego shop near me in Frankfurt in Germany. I decided to buy this model because I haven't had a Technic set since about 2010, or maybe even before that, and even then they were rather small things, and this is a big thing. It's about, I mean, I don't have the exact specs, but it's about 40 centimeters long, a bit longer probably. You know, full suspension. It's got steering. It's got double weird functions here. You can turn knobs and make things move, and the doors open, which is amazing. Lovely, lovely. But it did have one problem. It doesn't have any power functions, and I mean that's fine. Costs about €100, doesn't need power functions for €100, but it doesn't even have the option to be power function ready. So Lego doesn't even tell you how one would put a power function motor in this model. Now I saw a few options on YouTube how to do it. Many of them used multiple engines, one for the front, one for the back axle. I for one disliked that approach because you lose most of the powertrain and most of the drivetrain in this thing, and I really do like the drivetrain. I mean, if you have a look at the bottom here, you have the power coming down through a single cog down here, which gets brought from the engine in the front, and then it gets distributed to the front and the back axles, which have each of them one differential. And if you sort of disconnect all that, you have a lot of sort of like, yeah, a lot of like nothing, sort of dead machinery inside the vehicle. I didn't like that. So instead what I decided to do is to add power function to this vehicle using the very simple pieces I own. Now I own a simple set of power functions. I own the simple receiver, the IR module, a large or XL, I think it's an XL motor, and an S motor, a small motor. And that's it. I don't own any servos, I don't own multiples, I only own one big one, one small one. So that's enough to have one drive motor, one steering motor, and that's it. So that's what I wanted to use. Didn't want to have to go and add on and buy new engine parts, not necessary. I wanted to use the original drivetrain as far as possible, but I also wanted to keep the aesthetics and the original other functions as close as possible to the original, and I think I've done that. If I lift it up, you can see, let's balance it, if you see, you can move it, and all four wheels. On that side you can't see one of the wheels because the differential's disconnected, but you can see, there you go, all four wheels are moving, and it steers as well. Now it's not a servo steering, it's just a standard one engine powering the front steering kind of thing, which is actually, I think, better for this kind of model. I'll get to that. The engine. What I did up here, I have a little box. I have here a little box of pieces. There we go. With all the bits that I took out of the model. It's mostly small stuff. Panel here and there, bit of decoration, and the thing I've got in my hand, here we go, the actual engine block. I took that out because I'm using the original drivetrain. So instead of that, what I did, if you open this up, I'll hold it up for you, there we go, I added an XL motor into the actual place where the old engine block was. I added some cogs in there as well to gear down the engine a bit. It would actually be possible to gear it down even further, but I think you may have seen in the pre-video, it's quite slow. This engine really does struggle to move this thing, but it does move, and it moves it over obstacles quite well for something which has only been powered by a single motor. Then underneath here, inside, I'll open it up. In fact, I can open it up, and if I take out, I'll just grab over here, take out that, then you can see a bit inside there. I'll have a look. You can see inside there is a single S engine lying down there, and it's connected up through another gearing system here to gear it down as well a bit, to make it run a bit slower altogether, to a it's a slip. I think it's called a slip gear, which basically when there's too much power, too much resistance on the wheels, the gear slips. So we're not, you know, breaking the motor and breaking all the parts in there, and then it's, you know, put down into the actual steering mechanism down underneath the vehicle. The steering rod comes out. It's this red one here. You can see there the red rod underneath there. That's the steering rod, and that's the original steering rod, which has now just been powered by one engine. The special functions of the vehicle themselves still work. So you have here the tent that goes up and down to the roof or whatever it is, and there's a little door here, and you can, you know, move this out of the way. There you go. You can pull out the winch, pull that back in again. Everything nice. The receiver fits nice in the hole in the roof left by the original turning knob for the wheels. Tiny bit of modification, fits in lovely, and the battery box is just in there. There's the battery box. Turn it off. Click. There we go. So I'll bring you a bit closer, and we'll have a look inside the actual pieces themselves. We've got the engine. We've got one medium gear here, one big gear here, and that's the actual gearing down. This is just a connection between one gear and the other. It actually does nothing to the actual gearing system. One could also swap this gear and the little gear, and the medium gear and the little gear up here, and have an even further geared down engine. But then it hardly moves. It just really crawls, and actually it doesn't help that much. The thing doesn't need much more power. I experimented with, I think, 3 different kinds of ways of building this in here. It needs to have this length. It's not allowed to be any longer than that. If it is longer, here's the end piece which you can put it in. This is the piece holding the front on. So the engine really, it just really fits very snugly in, held by pins here down the sides. In fact, if I take this off, you can see, I'm just going to maneuver down here, you can see it's jointed in by a pin there and a pin behind the suspensions back there. It needed a bit of modification. I'll try and show it to you. It's quite difficult to see. If we pull it forward, it's in there, right in there, deep in there. Hold it, there we go. In there, there was a one of these lift arms here, one of these, which was on this bar, and that was in the way of the engine. So that needed to be removed and be replaced by a different piece, slightly different system, which is now this here we go, this axle that's pointing out of there is actually now holding the suspension instead of that lift arm that was in there beforehand. If you look at the vehicle, you have this entire side front needs to be taken off to be able to get at that. If not, you really can't work on it properly. Closing it, moving on to the actual steering. Apologise for the jerky camera movements, hoping I'm not going to make anyone motion sick or anything similar. I'm trying to show you things and hold the camera at the same time. So I'll lift up the cables and point you in there. There we go. We see the drivetrain quite nicely, what's happening in there. We've got the my little pudgy fingers pointing in here. We've got the yeah, it's an S motor. It's connected at the bottom here. It's got some little stud boards which it's sitting on, just connected via some shafts that I've put in there. I didn't really care for getting shafts exactly the right length. You don't really see it when the seat's in there. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. You don't see it when the seat's in there. And then it goes from a tiny cog onto the big slip cog, and then into just the driving to make it go. There you go, just down around the corner, and it goes underneath, and you can see it goes right to the front through there to end up steering the actual vehicle. The reason I like that steering mechanism for this vehicle is that these tracks have a lot of resistance when moving them on ground. If the vehicle is not moving and you try and turn these tracks, they have so much resistance. You notice it beforehand. If you have the power thing without the power functions, you turn the knob at the top. You can hardly turn that knob when the thing's not moving. You need to move the actual vehicle before you can move it. And I think a servo would probably just eventually just break if you did that to it. Well, with a power functions motor, yes, it doesn't go back to the middle, but we're running a tank track here. It's not really the most precise vehicle ever. And in that case, if there's too much strain, if the vehicle's not moving, the motor just doesn't turn. It just slips through the cogwheel, and that's that. And then the back, I'll just show you. Actually, hold it. We'll have a look first in the top there, and you can see in there in the top. That's the receiver brick. It's just clipped on. to the old mounting parts for the top screw. I had to modify that a bit as well, which did actually require removing most of this roof, but that's actually quite easy to do. And then the battery pack is in the back. We'll open it up, have a look inside. There we go, there's the battery pack. You switch it on, it starts glowing. There we go. And that's just one panel, wall panel, removed and added just some studs to this base plate and just sat it on there. That's very fine. Unfortunately, you can't take the battery pack out through the back door. This knob here is just the switch is too high, so but what you can actually do is you screw up, you open up the roof. There we go, and then if you go around the back, you can just take that, if you just lift it up, you can pull it up and out through here, which is not the easiest way of changing batteries, but it's actually possible without having to remove large parts of the vehicle. Now, for good measure, I'll show you the remote again. This is just something I just cobbled together. Here we go, I'm just sitting here on the carpet. Something I just cobbled together briefly. The wheel that turns up and down. This is not, I'm not saying that this is anything mega high quality. I try to make it quite stable, because I noticed when I had this wheel, especially with the long, it's quite high up, this wheel, with a long bar, it wobbled a lot. So I wanted something a bit stable, so I built that. So there we are. That's this mod, as you'd call it, or this build, changing the extreme adventure vehicle into an actual remote-controlled car. I wouldn't operate it outside, but for inside, driving along the couch, or driving over some pillows, or annoying someone who's sleeping in bed and driving on their face, that works very nicely. Just enough power to do that in this model, in this build. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. This is the first video of this kind that I've ever made. Also any feedback or anything you really can think of, if you can see this, you're welcome to leave me a like and a little anything you wish to tell me. Go for it. I'm happy if anyone sees this, if I could help anyone with this, because as I said, I was looking for this myself and I couldn't really find a video that really showed the inner workings in the sort of the way that I was thinking about doing it. As I said, there were some that had multiple engines, and they showed that, but the only one that I found which had a single engine setup, I think, they didn't show the inside workings. So I decided to, if it doesn't exist, make it yourself, and maybe I can help someone. So, I've been Daniel. This has been the Extreme Adventure vehicle from LEGO, and I hope you had a lot of fun. Bye!